A vast number of confidential documents have been leaked, allegedly showing how the world's rich and powerful hide their money. More than 11 million files were obtained from a Panama-based offshore law firm that's been operating for nearly 40 years. 72 current and former heads of states are among more than 100 politicians from 50 different countries named in the files. Well, to discuss this further, I'm now joined in the studio by RT's William Whiteman. William, the Panama Papers, as they're known, they're commonly now become known as the WikiLeaks of the mega rich. That's what I've seen in some headlines, revealing alleged money stashes. And I'm just looking at some of the list here: state leaders, sports stars, business people here from around the globe. But it seems that for many media outlets, the leaks start and finish with one man.
Well, yeah, I mean, that man is Vladimir Putin, it would appear. He's certainly the centre of attention. I mean, you've got his picture everywhere on newspaper articles and also web links all over Facebook and stuff like that, alongside the headlines as well. Obviously, this all started from the website of the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, which broke the news. And right after the main headline, you have this offshore network tied to Putin.
Yeah, so you have that in the headlines, but in the actual documents, there's no sign of Vladimir Putin's name.
Well, no, I mean, the documents itself, the way that they're organised is you have the main group, which consists of political figures who were directly associated, implicated in the leak. So these include the Argentinian President Mauricio Macri, Ukraine's Petro Poroshenko, and also the Prime Minister of Iceland and the King of Saudi Arabia. And then the second group is where you have people who or political figures who are associated with the leak by their affiliates. So in this case, we have family members and friends. And so this is where we find Putin. He's in here. So yeah, his name isn't directly mentioned in it. Instead, it's his associates. But this hasn't stopped one German newspaper, which published a leak, from dedicating a very extensive piece to the Russian president. You can check out this sketch here. In it, you can see that there's a Russian doll which has piles of money hidden inside it. So the focusing on Putin over other leaders has perhaps understandably provoked the scorn of some social media users. We can have a listen to some of those reactions now.
So where does it say Putin?
This is ridiculous. Who will believe that Western propaganda? On another note, there is nothing about Putin. Why you put his photo in the headline?
The Guardian forgot about the other 140 politicians and wealthy people who are hiding their wealth.
I like how the BBC has a whole article on Putin and Russian links, but mentions nothing about David Cameron's debt.
Even Cameron has been linked, but you lead with Putin. Getting tiresome.
And joining us live now from London is the host of Going Underground on RT, Afshin Ratanzi. Afshin, good to have you with us. Where you are, the newspaper, one of the newspapers there, The Guardian, was involved with these leaked documents, as well as the German newspaper that Will has been speaking about. What's The Guardian's take on the revelations there?
Well, I've got to start by saying every journalist loves a leak. Ever since Julian Assange did WikiLeaks, and of course before that, journalists relish the idea of secrets being told about the powerful. Julian Assange, of course, still under siege by British authorities, just a couple of miles away from where I'm speaking to you. The Guardian, and it has to be said to future leakers, sure, give it to Süddeutsche Zeitung, but the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists is based in Washington. The Guardian was involved with the BBC. The Guardian's been under attack. There have been civil servants in there with security forces, and they just had to let them in. So maybe the Guardian's so frightened, it has to always use leaks in a way that benefits British foreign policy. They've chosen Putin as the main story out of the leaks, even though they admit somewhere down in the text that he's one of those leaders not actually mentioned in the 11.4 million documents. So why would they do this? Why would all the other newspapers concentrate on our British Prime Minister, who, it has to be said, it's not surprising his father would be involved in a tax avoidance scheme. His father was involved in tax and issues of tax. He would have been not doing his job if he hadn't been opening up tax shelter companies in places like Panama, one would have thought. But certainly The Guardian, maybe it's terrified by the authorities. The BBC certainly was. Their Director General was fired. Of course, the BBC and The Guardian will be the first to try and use the leaks to say, look, we're okay, MI6, we're okay, Foreign Office. These leaks are nothing about damaging the British establishment.
Well, just about that, Cameron's father, his late father, did it get much attention in the British press after this? Because, you know, what is it, 5 past 11 a.m. in London now, so Britain's waking up to these revelations. What's been the scope of reaction in the press?
In fairness, the Daily Mirror, Tories, tax haven secrets, Cameron's dad. But why would Cameron's dad not have? And in fact, the deputy chairman of the Conservative Party, a sworn enemy of David Cameron ever since the alleged revelations of Cameron's antics involving a pig. He's involved as well in the leaks. So, so far, nothing really at the nub of what must be at the core of these documents, which WikiLeaks in the past few hours is saying, shall we release them in searchable form? Because they're not available right now. The real nub of this question is the big four accounting firms and how they've been involved. Just in the past 48 hours, Dutch financial tax authorities have fined the big four accounting firms. How far are these firms that were the ones auditing the banks that causes the austerity because they had to be bailed out? How are they involved? This is the root problem of these leaks. They expose tax havens, the 1%. No one expects that Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the British Labour Party, or for that matter Bernie Sanders in the United States, to be using tax haven companies, which is why the Shadow Chancellor's comment today was immediately, this raises serious questions about the tax authorities. Otherwise, the newspapers, except The Guardian, are tending to concentrate on Cameron and celebrities like Lionel Messi, who says he's already going to sue about allegations, and other celebrities.
Some big name involved. Will, if I can turn back to you now, you've been taking a look at what's been happening reaction-wise across the Atlantic.
No, well, I mean, let's have a look at here. We've got this, I'd like to have a look at this New York Times article, which we specifically have flagged up. You can see that their headline is more general, and it's about other world leaders, but Putin's picture certainly features underneath, and many other outlets have opted to do the same. So the New York Times is even going as far as to bring up the late former Russian press minister, Mikhail Lesin. And but when they talk about the shares of Putin's friend, the cellist Rudigin, his shares in a company which obviously was founded by Lesin. Judging by how many media outlets have handled this massive leak, the full story, unfortunately, remains largely untold. The focus is really being drawn to the Russian president here in this instance.
Yeah, it's a multifaceted story, isn't it? William Whiteman speaking to us from the studio, and also from London, RT's Going Underground host, Afshin Rattansi. Thank you very much for joining us this hour. Well, just some more reaction to this. The Panama-based law firm Mossack Fonseca, where the data came from, has responded to the leak. It said that in 40 years of work, it has never been accused or charged in connection with any criminal wrongdoing.